I'm waiting for we're live. So we are live. And we guess you're doing Instagram because that's always the one that
Yes, exactly.
takes a second. So we're just going to go ahead and start it. Hey, for women of FWA, it is October 29th. And today is all about Tiffany. Tiffany is on our leadership team for women of FWA. And we're going to dig into pretty much her. I do have Yadira here helping me out. She's running our comments and our lives and to help me ask Tiffany all the really good questions because the rest of the leadership team has limited the kind of questions that I can ask. So they have had a we
don't want to call it censorship, but
yeah, a little, that's pretty much what it is. So Tiffany, who are you? Where are you? Tell us, just the basics.
The basics. So I'm Tiffany Stuart. I live in Idaho. I've lived here for quite a long time now. I work in the fence industry, still fairly new. I'm like coming into my 1 year in the industry. I feel like I've learned a lot. I feel like I have probably an endless universe of stuff to learn, but I definitely got caught up in the vibe of the fence industry.
You got bit by the bug.
Yeah, basically.
Bug.
I had the opportunity to work with a lot of entrepreneurs in, all kinds of different industries. And I do love just the entrepreneur spirit itself. That's like, hey, American dream. I'm going to carve this out for myself. I'm going to do it my way. But I think that the fence crowd specifically does it their own way with a lot of pizzazz, I guess.
Enthusiasm, passion,
and camaraderie. But I mean, there's also, of course, competition and certain tensions there. But there's a lot of common goal to improve the industry, and it's with all these big events that the organizations put on. I feel like, that's a really great way to make it happen. So,
and it keeps growing. It's almost like it's this monster in itself. And you start getting everybody together and then it's like it hypes you up and then, it's this roller coaster. So you've been in Idaho for quite a while. Where were you actually originally from?
So I was born in Idaho, but I spent a lot of my childhood over in Montana and then came back in 7th grade, I think. I started, or mid 7th grade. We moved here to Idaho to be closer to the VA hospital because my dad was having some heart issues. And we also just had a bunch of family here. I know that when we first moved here, coming from the Big Sky, Montana, and I lived in this emerald green valley. And when we first moved to Idaho, it's this high desert, where I'm at anyway. It's kind of this high desert scenery. It's like brown hills and tumbleweeds and stuff. It took me the longest time to acclimate to that. I couldn't wrap my head around moving somewhere where everything was dead and brown versus just this paradise that I felt like we lived in. But it's definitely got me. There's times when, Zine has to tell me, hey babe, watch the road, not the sunset, or we're going to die today. So Idaho does have its beauty. I also have, all my siblings live here. A good handful of aunts and uncles live in or around Idaho. So it's kind of like a close-knit family network, which is nice.
So what part of Idaho is it? Are you in?
I live in a town called Income. There's 800 people in the town, but we're outside of Pocatello, Idaho, which is 51,000. And then there's Idaho Falls and some other cities nearby. So if we want to get out of the countryside, we tend to either go Idaho Falls, Twin Falls, or run down to Salt Lake City to have some fun.
Cool. 800 people in your entire town?
Yeah, I like it. I was mostly raised in small towns.
So Yadira, that's like occupancy of one of the hotels, one of the wings of the hotels.
Oh yeah, I felt like Vegas was a trip. It was super fun. It was a great adventure. It was highly overstimulating, and I was happy to come home. But I'm still looking forward to next year.
It's really funny that you say that because being originally from Las Vegas, and I've been gone now for 10 years, it overstimulates me. I'm like, oof, I'm ready to go back and complain about my 60,000 people in town.
Yeah, I even had to get out of my little 800 town. I took my dogs up in the woods and made myself some soup over a fire and just was like, there's nobody around as far as I can, as far as I know.
You're so lucky. Vegas is just kind of like the desert, and there's like nowhere to go to do that.
I feel like if I lived in the city like that, I would want to like broker deals to get myself rooftop access on buildings where other people don't have it. So I could just be like, I'm going to go up to the roof and just chill for a bit. Like,
listen to all the traffic and the horns honking and the sirens and everything else.
Right. Probably choke on some of the smog that's up higher.
Yeah. That's lingering. So you're coming up on 1 year in the fence industry. And you mentioned the morale and the camaraderie and the passion and the drive, but what is one thing really about the fence industry that really surprised you, that just really you're like, holy cow, this is like a whole new world?
I mean, I think it was, so really early on into my getting into the industry, I made it down to fence tech and got to meet a lot of you guys for the first time. And that was insane. You know what I mean? I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like it. And so to follow it up with, of course, the fence show, like the way that these organizations put it on so that it's not just networking, it's not just like, hey, I'm going to trade business cards with people. It's a lot deeper than that. It's not just education and it's not just fun, but truth be told, like there's lots of opportunities to just have fun and bond with people in a normal, natural way versus the whole, and I worked previously in the tax strategy industry. So
I know, which is one of my favorite topics to talk to you about, because like we've had some really good conversations about, this world that you came from, and then all of a sudden into the fence industry. Like that's quite a big jump. What was that leap? What was that change?
Yeah, well, so one thing I was going to say about it was that in certain industries, you kind of have to show up a certain way, right? Like if you work somewhere with a uniform, you tend to wear the uniform to work, for instance. I had some pretty like a 2-month-long debate with my former supervisor when I was in the tax company about whether or not I wanted to wear suits or, dresses, but I was probably more of a suit person. And I was going to be traveling around the nation, giving presentations and talking and representing the company. And the company wanted to pay for me to get some like really nice, business suits to do this with. And we had to like argue back and forth about it because I was like, I feel like I can do what I do in my jeans and my boots. And I'm still highly effective. Sure, sometimes when people first see me, they're like, oh, who's this? This isn't tax strategies. But when I start talking, in the end, everyone still gets that authentic information. Like I'm just being myself. And eventually I caved and let them buy me the suits. So persistence is everything, right? And there was that argument about, just uniforms and the kind of people that I was going to be interacting with and stuff. So I think that was something about the fence industry. It was like, I can be about my business and I can pursue big things, but I can do it like I can show up as me at every corner,
Absolutely.
So that was something that really stuck out to me. The jump from former career to current career was kind of a unexpected decision that I made. Just some things that I learned about the company that I was specifically working with and had been voted by the executive committee to take over for the CEO when he retired. But in kind of understudying certain things, I just found incompatibilities, I guess, with what I want to do and who I want to be. So it's kind of a scary thing to decide, hey, I'm going to dash my career over a principle or a form of, I guess, character building. but I tend to think it was the right decision, and especially because now here I am today on this path that feels like the right path for me. So I would just say, like, to anyone that's in that situation, make the jump, do what you got to do, like, stay true to yourself. And that's kind of where I still have the knowledge that I built in that industry. And I just am really passionate about it. I thought that I was walking away from that as a career. So I intended to find something new to focus on as a career. But at every turn, I find people who need the information about their entities and how to protect themselves and their assets. So it's just kind of led me. Hey, Michaela.
Hey, Michaela. Sorry,
I feel like
shout
my
out
voice
to
is
girls.
shaking a little bit.
So,
It's just kind of led me to where I'm at with the little consultancy that I got to spring up and bring to Las Vegas and do the classes with, and the wholesaling side. Like, it all kind of ties together in the right way.
I love that. So tell us about what you're doing now in the fence industry. Besides being on the Women of FWA leadership team with all of us crazies, and filling us full of the tax knowledge, there's a lot of knowledge on that I have and that Yadira has in our positions, but it's still super fun to talk to you because you kind of come from a different approach with things. So it's really neat to have the diverse group that we do. And we love that that's a part of our team, but what are you doing now?
Yeah. So, truth be told, I'm still kind of just filling it out. Like, I did get involved with a wholesale supplier. And so I've put a lot of time into learning not just the fences and the parts and things that come with them, but the numbers and margins, and understanding the relationships between suppliers and manufacturers and suppliers and contractors. And when the residential side gets involved, like, there's a lot of variables that go into it. So it's been a really awesome opportunity to kind of throw myself into the deep end on that and just, try to learn to swim or at least stay afloat. And then with the tax knowledge that I had, and a lot of times on Facebook, I find myself engaging with, I hate the term because it's a little cliche, but it's just what pops into my head, like fencepreneurs, those people who are just getting started out in the fence industry, and they're just as information hungry as I am, and they're trying to find their footing and figure out how it all works. And so a lot of it just came from a passion for wanting to share what I know, and even kind of broker information, like trade knowledge. And it just kind of launched into what I'm calling a consultancy, because that's where I intend to take it and let it bloom into. Currently, it's more a digital asset package with a lot of information that, my hope is will lead to future consultation discussions and things like that. So everything's really in its baby stage. I probably haven't even totally given it its name and, decided its personality yet. I'm just kind of letting it act out and see what happens. But I do feel really attached to the pursuit as far as the fence industry goes. I'm also providing that same kind of digital package for the Renaissance industry, which is just like a kind of an underground passion of mine.
I love that.
It was the same kind of thing where I was attending a Renaissance fair. It was after having left the tax strategies company. But as I'm walking around in this magical little world vibe that people have created, and hanging out with my sister and just playing games and having fun, whatever, I couldn't help but notice that even at this small Renaissance fair, there were hundreds of tents. And each tent was somebody who is passionate about being in business, doing what they love, and building, that legacy for their kids, even if it's something that really isn't taken seriously by a lot of people. And so I kind of started to look into it and realized there's Renaissance fairs all over the place. I know there's at least 6 in Idaho that are annual, that are well known. There's plenty in Utah. All 50 states have a collection of Renaissance fairs. And there are some people who make a living traveling to these fairs, playing castle all day, playing games with people and making money off of it, or selling their crafts and their goods. And I just thought that was super cool. So I couldn't help but put just a little bit of my focus into, hey, no big tax firm is going to come to a Renaissance fair and say, let me teach you some things that'll save you in the long run. And so it just seemed like another good kind of personality-wise fit as well as knowledge fit.
Right. So Michaela says, does that explain the swords tip?
Yeah, the swords. Also, my name of the consultancy that I'm creating is Iron Price, which
I
was
love that.
the price that you had to pay if you crossed swords with the wrong person, I guess, back in the day. So
maybe I need to team up on this so I can have a sword in my office.
I definitely think it's a full body workout, super healthy hobby to pick up. Also,
Love that. Hi, Isaac. Good evening. Your bid helper checking in. So what made you join Women of FWA? Like, this is quite a group of women that come together. Like, what made you dive in and want to be a part of our crazy group?
Yeah, where did you come from, Tiffany?
Yeah. You just, to be honest, Tiff just kind of like showed up. Like, she just, all of a sudden, Tiffany was there. And I was like, okay, who is this?
That's how it happened on my end, too. I just, once I made the decision to get into fence, and my husband has worked on in an install company for, about the last decade. So it's not something I was totally unfamiliar with. I've got to go help on a couple side projects, and I always thought it was fun, but it just wasn't where my focus was at the time. So when I realized I was going to change my focus, it seemed like a natural move to make that was still, within our empire of things that we're building together. So that's kind of why I happened into it. And then as far as the getting involved, it's, when I was with the tax company, we started as a company of 6 people, some professionals and some people with ideas, and we built it. We built departments and policies and recruited, and the most awesome, effective relationships that were made were ones that were made out networking, getting to know other people in the industry, getting to really see who's complementary with what you're working on, or vice versa. And so it made sense to me when I joined with the wholesale company. A lot of the sales were inbound, and I had done outbound sales with the tax company. So it made sense to me to pursue an outbound approach. It would kind of give me a unique position as far as that goes. And it would allow me to just get to know everybody. You know what I mean? So it was kind of that led to me going to Fence Tech, was like, hey, this to me looks like an opportunity to network. I don't really know anything else about it aside from I could put myself in front of a bunch of people, get to know them, whatever, come back with business cards, start building that network of relationships in the industry. And I happened to see you guys there, right? So I did go to the Women in Fence panel, and I got to see Melanie do her discussion, and all the women of FWA in their cowgirl hats sitting up in the front row. And I think I was supposed to actually come sit with you guys then. Like, we had already talked on Facebook a little bit, but I just wasn't entirely sure. And I ended up meeting with a girl, Anne-Marie Nappy. She manages things down in Florida. She's a regional manager, and she was just super awesome. She was super empowering, like walked me through some of the first events when I was walking around the first welcome party or whatever. And I was like, I don't know anyone, literally nobody. Like, where do I start? Where do I shoot the first arrow? And she was kind of like, oh, hey, this is me. Let me introduce you to people, and just kind of took me around. So the whole thing was really awesome. So then I decided, truth be told, I've never been super into the whole women's groups. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm feminist in the sense that I do believe in our rights and all that, but I feel like, just like there's that term toxic masculinity or whatever, I feel that there is such a thing on the reverse side if you take it there. And I've just kind of always been more neutral, I guess.
Yeah.
So it was a hesitation point, like getting involved with a group of women. What is that still even? You know what I mean?
Do I want to deal with the cattiness? Do I want to deal with the beep, 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 beep behind, everybody's back? And I think that's kind of the cool thing about it. And everybody who's ever watched any of these lives that I've been a part of has heard me say, I'm a guy's girl. I work in a male dominant industry for a reason, because this is my personality. This is who I am. This is where I feel at home. And one of the things that I've really noticed about women of FWA, and I'm talking about all of women of FWA, is it's full of guys, girls. It's all of us. Like some of us are more extreme than the other, but our personalities and our sense of humors are just so complementary to each other, and they work. And so you don't have, that awkward or that weird. And that's one of the reasons why women of FWA got started, is because we normally, whether if you're a guy's girl or not, women don't normally just approach other women. It's just not the way we communicate and the way that we link up. And so that's one of the reasons why women of FW came around, is to kind of break that morale and kick that networking off, and to give every female in this industry, direct or indirect, the opportunity to go to these events and have those conversations and sit with those people. So I love that.
Me too. I do. I think that it offers something to the industry and to the less toxic side of femininity. I think we set a pretty good example. Even if opportunities for cattiness and things like that could arise, more often than not, like as a group, we're dedicated to our cause, and
Absolutely.
so things that interfere with the cause aren't things that we feed into, and that's highly respectable, in my opinion.
Absolutely. So women that get along with other women that are not like normal women or power women. Absolutely. And that was one of the things I noticed. I've been in this industry for a while. I came from the construction industry before that. And I did struggle because I saw the Olsen boys. I saw the Olsen boys. They were able to pull out their phone and call 10 people at any given time and have that network. And I didn't. And I did feel like I was on a deserted island all by myself. And then when this opportunity came around, it was like, holy cow, everybody's on their own island. We're just going to pull them together and have a big old party. So that's kind of what we did.
Yeah.
And I think Sylvia touches on a really good point, that contractor women are even harder to find.
Yes.
People who understand women who understand, digging equipment and tools, and it's just completely a smaller group of women in the construction industry for sure. So
absolutely. And how we communicate and what we talk about.
Yeah.
Or how we talk. My mom came from like the corporate world. She wore business suits every single day. And then there's me, who took after, my dad and my stepdad in the construction world. And I go home and F this and F's that. Blah, 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 blah. And my mom's like, and I'm like, she's like, did you really say that at work? And I'm like, yeah, twice. So, and Tiff, you joined this group just like you had always been a part of us, and you bring such a new perspective, especially being so new to the industry. I always find it to be such a huge breath of fresh air when you bring something different, because it makes us all step back and be like, wait a minute. Let's talk about this. Hold on. Because we definitely get into our own routines. So I appreciate that about you.
Well, thank you. I'll have to try to catch myself when I'm doing it and be like, hey, this is what she's talking about.
So we're almost at the end of the year. We're almost at the end of 2024. This year has absolutely flown by. What are some hot things on your to-do list in the next couple months?
Well, one is to capture the interviews for STFU, the Sounds of the Fence Underground podcast that I'm launching in January. Tell
us about that.
What's
I wasn't sure if I could mention it.
Yeah, well, I wasn't either. I'm not trying to steal the advertisements or anything, but it's something that I'm working on. I'm really excited. I've got all of the aesthetic bits taken care of. So I just now need to collect and organize the interviews how I want them, do whatever little bit of editing there, and then I'll start putting them out. And I will probably go live on social media platforms, but I will likely go live and say, okay, now I'm going to play the interview kind of thing. Maybe I'll even pause it and do commentary, or whoever's the guest and I will do that. But I do want to have them pre-recorded, just because my schedule, I tend to take one bite out of 27 pies and then work slowly until all 27 are finished, which does mean that it takes me a while to get through one. But I also feel like you maybe sacrifice, I think, who was it? Jordan Peterson I was listening to the other day, and he was talking about, if you are really good at 5 things, chances are you can only give them 80%. But if you dedicate yourself to being really good at one thing, you should be able to give it 150%. But if you're doing the 5 things, you'll never be able to give one of them 150%, because you've dedicated yourself to 80% at each area. And then he said, I'm not saying either one of those is right or wrong. He's like, a lot of times if you have the 5 things at 80%, you have a more enriched and fulfilled life, because you have this, well-rounded and diverse approach to things. And yet there's still the benefit of, if you're a master of one thing, you are a master, you're an authority, so he's like, just weigh out what you want in life and go about it that way. And I thought it was really nice, because most of the time you just hear focus on your one thing, and my brain just doesn't work that way. Really, I have to break up the monotony of the one thing with some of the other things to keep myself in the right zone.
I can't sit down and do one thing all day long. That's one of the things that I absolutely love about this industry and the position that I'm in, is the constant diversity. Even when I think I have a plan, it laughs at me and says, no, you just thought that's what you were going to do. You go this direction. So let's talk about this podcast. I know we're going to this kind of opens up a whole new can of worms, but I'm so excited for this. You kind of let the cat out of the bag to me on your way home from Las Vegas that this is the route you're going to go. What made you want to do this? What is the foundation of this? What is the drive behind it?
Sure. I think that probably comes from, again, just the passion for connecting and for sharing information, or brokering information back and forth. And I really love the podcasts that I listen to that are already in the fence industry, and the podcasts I listen to on creative writing and organized thought and just all the different things that are out there. So I've always kind of thought it would be, a fun approach to take on. And I said, even when I first, my first couple months in the fence industry, I put it out there, hey, I'm going to build a team underneath me as far as the material supply goes. That's still on my list of goals. I'm going to start a podcast for the fence industry that allows me to network. It's fun networking in the big settings with all the crowds, and you just shaking hands and getting names and kind of almost speed dating through it, right? But I also love these times where you get to sit and have full-on conversations and get to know each other better. And if there's people that can take value from that conversation, it's almost irresponsible not to post it. So I still have a lot of different, goals also, just in the next couple months. I've worked my digital asset, took it to the fence show and did my class and got a lot of really awesome feedback. It was really helpful for some people. Some people were already way on their game, but they were able to kind of, hey, affirm the information that's here and then offer me maybe if you did it this way, and they were all excited to see what I came back with. So I immediately set to work on how do I make this? How do I take that feedback and then refine this into something that's even more valuable and palpable and desirable, I guess. So that's just something I'm going to be working on for a little while, just kind of pinpointing little things and setting up the kind of automatic work that goes in the background to make everything run. I'm big on trying to streamline processes like that so that I can move on to my next bite from my next pie kind of thing. But I started journaling recently. So I'll be working on some disciplines, like doing my journals, remembering to put a date entry or a date on the journal entry, because I'm so bad at that. So I'll look back and be like, but what date was this? So kind of just, I like to use winter, but especially at certain phases of my life, probably, but as a time to kind of introspect and work on, what I got going on internally. There's this little story I came across that I thought was really great. And it's like, you're walking down the hallway at work and somebody bumps into you and you've got coffee in your hands. You spill coffee, stain your shirt, like feel like you got to change. Why did you spill the coffee? And the most common answer is, well, somebody bumped into me. And the root answer is like, no, it's because you had coffee in the cup. So when something bumps into you, you're going to shake out whatever you've got going on inside. Yeah. So I think it's really critical to put constant work into that, so that when something does shake you up, you're not burning people that are walking by, or you're like ruining everyone's clothes, or whatever, the metaphor leads to. So that's kind of.
You don't look like that little guy out of Inside Out that like bursts into flames.
Yeah. Definitely feel like him sometimes, right? That's kind of my focus.
The more I get to know you, the more I start to realize that even though you are like from a small town and stuff, you have like such big dreams, and yes. I'm inspired by you. And you have, and not just dreams, but because you're actually putting them into place by getting yourself out there and joining this, like taking the initiative and joining this group. So thank you for that.
Yeah. I love this podcast idea. I actually was approached a few years ago with the idea and the sponsorship to actually be the first female to start a podcast in the fence industry. I'd shoot on it and shoot on it and shoot on it and shoot on it. And yes, the thought excited me. And I thought, yes, this is something the industry needs for the women in the industry. And I just never took the leap. I don't, there's a million reasons why scheduling, those 17 pies that you're taking bites of, but you can really only swallow 5 of them, that kind of stuff. So when you let the cat out of the bag and told me this is what you're going to do, I was so excited that one of our fellows was going to take this leap and make that stamp in the mud to be the first woman to do a podcast in this industry. So that is super, super exciting.
It is really exciting. I think it's important to emphasize, though, that it's not always, I know that it's like kind of societally impressed that you should be the first, or like if you're not the first, you're the last, Ricky Bobby, right? Like, but in reality, I think that whenever, like, even if 2 years from now and my podcast's going strong, whatever, and you were like, I still kind of want to do one, like, do it. Don't be like, well, somebody already did it, because there's, even if nothing comes of that podcast, but the information and knowledge that you get and the understanding and growth that you get figuring out how to put it together and building the discipline of recording it and posting it in the public space, like, anything that you feel like you should do it regardless of who's already done it.
Yeah, that's kind of, to be completely honest with you, the lives that we do in Women of FWA satisfies all of that desire that I once had. When I approached the team and said, hey, we should do different lives every single week, different people doing interviews, different topics, different experts, different questions. It was kind of like, and Yadira can definitely, confirm this. Everybody kind of looked at me like, what? Like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I just don't want to see the same person's face on the screen all the time. Like, let's mix it up. So when Veronica jumps onto one of her lives and it's not planned at all, if that's an insight to how I would do a podcast, it would not be good. Like, who knows
highly entertaining.
What would be put on there?
Maybe disorganized, but highly entertaining.
Yeah, that entertainment would definitely be it.
Well, that's good. Yeah, I just know that, like, for instance, one of my other 27 pies is I dabble in rap and the music industry. And when I first decided to myself that I wanted to be a rapper, I was really kind of focused on the country rap genre. They do rapping and they've got good beats and stuff like that, but they're talking about things that I relate with, like family values and work ethic and, your dog and your truck and whatever. And when I first decided, like, hey, I'm going to do this, there were no other female country rappers. There was nothing else out there. And I was like, dude, I got the lead in on this. Like, I'm going to crush it. But it was just an idea I had. And a lot of times ideas take significant amounts of time and effort and practice and mastery of a craft before, it's worthwhile. So I didn't make it in my mind to a point where, no, I don't think anyone has, Michaela.
No, but we're going to.
Yes, we are.
I don't think I missed any of this.
I'm so glad we're running out of time.
Oh, there's so much time, especially when we have the magic button.
Well, so anyway, I set out preparing myself, right? Practicing certain drills, working on my writing, working on rhyme schemes, trying to decide what I wanted to write about, the topics and things like that. And as I was working on that, 2 and then 3 and then 4 other female country rap artists popped out of the woodwork, and they were dropping songs and getting views and interactions and stuff like that. And I came across this cross point where it was like, okay, so I missed the boat. There's already female country rappers out there. Like, is that something I still want to pursue? And at that point, the benefit of the pursuit had me hooked, right? I'd learned to be more articulate. I'd learned to express myself in different ways. I was finding that this is like a whole new medium to kind of play with as far as art goes. And I was like, it doesn't actually matter to me at this point, even if I just only ever put like a song a year out and never get famous and never like all the other stuff. At this point, it's more about the benefit that I'm reaping from the pursuit.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. So, okay, so $1 million question is, where can we hear you rap? Do you have a TikTok page? Because nowadays, everybody in the music world originates from TikTok. I don't know how, it's just a thing. So,
it is. Yeah, I should for that reason.
TikTok, or are you just going to tell us?
I don't have a
Sounds like you're building up a fan base, okay?
Yeah. Look, you already have all of this. Like, everybody wants to hear it. You can't let the fans down, Tiffany. Like, you've already put this much work into it. Like, you got to have everybody hear it.
It is on YouTube. I do have 2 songs on YouTube. I intend to make a TikTok probably. I just battle with myself over it because I feel like there are parts of engaging with TikTok that are less patriotic than I like to be. Is really probably my main struggle with it. Also, it's just, it's time consuming, of course, to constantly be making videos and stuff. Yeah, I intend to get around to it.
Especially with, the podcast, but just turn around and link your podcast and your rap TikTok all into one. And we have like a one-stop Tiffany shop. Like,
yeah, something like that. I do have 2 songs on YouTube. When I decided to step away from the tax strategies company, I stepped away from the annual revenues that I had built up for myself there. And so in recreating myself and my new business approach, it's one of those bootstrapping events, and I haven't quite figured it out yet. And I know that a lot of times it's because I choose to go against the grain in certain areas that makes my journey take a little longer, but I still feel like it's worth the effort. So the 2 songs that I have on YouTube are on Rogue Waters is my pseudo name, was always my gamer name and my creative writing name. So I just stuck with it.
Okay, and so do you mind if we go find the YouTube links and drop them in the comments of the video? I'm asking for permission, which is weird because anybody that knows me knows I don't. I just do it on.
I know, right? I shouldn't make it powerful. Yeah, no, that's fine. I could probably even do it.
Perfect.
If I put it into right here where it says private chat, is that you guys?
No, that will. Yeah, that'll just put it where Yadira and I can see it. If you drop it either in the public chat, or you can put it in the private chat, and then Yadira can actually copy and paste it and actually put it into all of the pages chats. I believe it'll copy into all of them, right, Yadira?
Yes.
Okay. So, well, I do swear in one of them, so people with kids, and they're like the first couple of songs that I ever wrote, so since you'll see, like, it's been over a year since I put a song onto YouTube, and since then I have of course, just continue to practice and grow my talent, I guess.
I love that. So we are completely out of time. Like that seems to be the repetitive what's happening the more and more that we get a chance to talk to the leadership team and get to know, and we find out these great little nuggets that we do spend a lot of time on the phone with each other. We spend a lot of time on Zoom meetings. We spend a lot of time at these events, and it still seems that every single one of these lives, we're constantly learning about each other, and I love that. There are a couple things I want to mention. We kind of have an event coming up that Tiffany is leading. So next few minutes, Tiff, why don't you tell us like what's going on this week, how they can join us, and some details.
Yeah, so we are having our Women of FWA costume party for Halloween, and we're just going to do some activities. It's going to be a casual social event. We've had, from what I understand, quite a few people RSVP. So it's just going to be a fun time to kind of get to know each other in less formal settings. And I hope to see everyone there. And anyone that's not dressed up is going to get their house egged. We'll just hire little kids in the neighborhood to get the jobs done. So
yeah, toilet paper is no longer a thing ever since 2020. We're now just going directly to eggs.
Right. It is highly critical that if you're going to show up, you
wear your costume.
Yes, please wear your costume. So I'm also hearing like there might be a little bit of a costume contest going on that we're going to throw out to the industry to vote, correct?
Right,
Yeah.
right. We had talked about potentially doing a best women's costume, best men's costume, and best couples costume. So
I am so excited to see what comes out of the woodworks on these. You know, it's amazing at Halloween. You really, it really shows a lot about people's personalities. Anybody that is friends with Brian and Yadira on Facebook saw that they actually were at a Halloween contest this past weekend. Super cute, Yadira. Like, I was like, why does this not surprise me?
I loved in Yadira's interview when she said we're having the Halloween party, like, I hope you all come. And Brian jumped in the comments like, did she just invite the entire internet to our house?
Of course.
I love
He does. Why can't you?
That made me laugh so hard.
I love it. So I also do want to give a big shout out to all of the women of FWA, as well as anybody in the industry that has supported and shown support for Breast Cancer Awareness Month in the month of October. And the pink, for those that know, this really hits our leadership team in a different way. And so like I have goosebumps just saying it. So we really love the support and the awareness in that. So thank you to everybody who has shown up and worn pink and shown their support during Breast Cancer Awareness.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think that is all I have for tonight. Dear, do you have any other questions?
I do not. That Halloween social is happening tomorrow at 5:30 Central Time, right? Yes, I checked it.
Right.
Ladies, thank you guys for coming on. It was a lot of fun.
It was.
Tiffany,
yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it, guys.
Thank you so much. We will get you, dear, to post your YouTube link. And when you get to 100 million followers, like overnight, the fence industry, thank you.
Industry for that too.
Yeah. So you guys have a good evening. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Good night, everyone.